Have you ever wondered how any big community, a company, a city, heck, even a church, manages to thrive when its members are all so incredibly different? Well, today, we're going to dig into that exact question with a really fascinating case study, a church called the First Evangelical Community Church, or FECC for short. And that really brings us to the big puzzle here. How does one single community support so many different, sometimes conflicting ways of connecting with faith? It's a huge challenge, right? But the answer might just hold some lessons for all of us. Let's see how they pull it off. So to really get how they solve this, first you have to appreciate the sheer scale of the challenge they're facing. I mean, this is not your quiet little neighborhood chapel. This is a massive, multi-layered organization. Just look at the numbers. We're talking 3 completely separate campuses, services in at least 3 different languages, and on top of that, more than half a dozen specialized groups just for different ages. Right away, this tells you their whole philosophy is the exact opposite of one size fits all. So, how do they wrangle all this complexity? Well, the key seems to be this idea called spiritual temperaments. You can think of it like a personality type, but for your spiritual life. The idea is actually pretty simple, but it's also profound. There's just no single right way to connect with the divine. And it looks like FEC has built their entire community around that one principle. All right, first up, let's explore the path of the traditionalists. For this group, faith is really found in history, in ritual, in symbols, that deep sense of order and meaning that comes from things that have been done for generations. And for them, it's all about structure. You can see it right in a typical church bulletin. There's a clear, predictable flow. Communion, then a scripture reading, then a sermon. Every single role is defined: the speaker, the song leader, even the pianist. Events like baptisms are on the calendar way in advance. For a traditionalist, this predictability isn't boring. It's what creates a safe, sacred space to connect. And that love for order goes way beyond just the Sunday service. Take this Draw Near retreat. It's not some casual, unstructured get-together. No, it is a precisely scheduled day of prayer, meditation, and journaling. For the traditionalist, that structure isn't restrictive at all. In fact, it's what gives them the freedom to actually go deep and reflect. But, not everyone finds that connection inside 4 walls. And that brings us to the next path, which belongs to the naturalists. These are the folks who feel most connected to their faith when they're actually out in the natural world. This quote pretty much says it all, doesn't it? For the naturalist, the most powerful sermon isn't spoken from a stage, it's felt in the silence of a forest or the roar of the ocean. For them, nature is the cathedral. And what's so cool is that this isn't just some abstract theory at their church. It's actually lived out by the leadership. The children's director loves walking and swimming. The Mandarin minister is a big-time hiker. That sends a really powerful message, right? It says that faith isn't just something that happens in the church building. It's something you live out in the world, wherever you are. Okay, so we've talked about tradition, and we've talked about nature. Our next pathway moves from the heart and the outdoors right into the mind. This is for the scholar, the person whose spiritual connection is forged through deep study, intellectual questions, and a real love of learning. This quote from one of the pastors just nails the scholarly mindset. It's saying that faith isn't just about emotion, it requires discipline, a systematic plan. For someone with this temperament, to understand something more deeply is to worship more fully. And FCC doesn't just talk about this, they provide really concrete ways to live it out. This is just a tiny sample of their weekly study groups. They've got everything from deep dives into specific books of the Bible to super complex systematic theology, and it's all offered in multiple languages. They are serious about catering to that studious heart. And right here, you can see the end result of all that study. This is a personal reflection from a pastor's devotional. He takes this huge theological idea, the kingdom of heaven, and through his own study and thinking, he turns it into this really personal, powerful insight about value and joy. That's the payoff. All right, our final pathway is for the people who believe faith is a verb. For the activist, spirituality isn't passive. It's not something you just think or feel. It's about getting out there and taking tangible action in the world. And for them, that action starts right in their own backyard. You see events like Love Fullerton, which is all about getting church members out into the community to serve their actual neighbors. It's about turning belief into direct local impact. But their focus on action doesn't stop at the city line. I mean, look at their weekly prayer requests. This is a community that is deeply plugged into global issues.
They're praying for peace talks in Ukraine, for victims of a bus crash in Nepal, for humanitarian aid in Africa. It connects what they're doing locally to this much bigger vision of what it means to care for the world.
So you've got all these different temperaments, the traditionalist, the naturalist, the scholar, the activist. The big question is, how on earth does a place like FECC keep from just fracturing into a million little pieces? How do they stay one community?
Well, the secret seems to be in how they see themselves. They don't try to be a monolith where everyone is the same. Instead, they see themselves as a mosaic. Each one of these different paths is seen as an equally valid, equally valuable way to express faith. The goal isn't conformity, it's creating a space where all these different approaches can actually thrive side by side.
And they're pretty smart about the tools they use to weave this whole thing together. They use a mix of old school and new school tech. You've got your traditional multi-language bulletins keeping everyone in the loop, but then they're also using modern platforms like YouTube and Zoom to bridge all the physical and language gaps. It's a whole system designed to make sure no one gets left behind.
You know, the lesson from FECC isn't really just about religion. It's about how to intentionally build a community. It makes you stop and think, right? In our own lives, in our workplaces, our friend groups, even our families, do we make space for different pathways? Or do we kind of expect everyone to walk the exact same road? Maybe recognizing and even celebrating those differences is the real secret to building something that's not only stronger, but a lot more interesting, too.